Ladies and gentlemen, I am Yuzril. It is the 3rd of September, just about, and welcome once again to the Tribble Timewarp. We'll start with a little bit of detail. There is a new emote in the game, the Vulcan Meditation. Sadly, it is not yet enabled for some reason, so I have no way of telling whether or not it is merely sitting still for 49 seconds before strangling the nearest Talaxian. Anyhow, in other news, we have finally got a look at the new type of bridge officer. Yes, folks, it is dual-classed intelligence and something else specialist. So as you can see, we have got all the new abilities. They can mix and match between intelligence size, and they're remarkably cheap. 240 dilithium for a common candidate. And even then, I have seen some Mark III abilities floating about in places. Let's scroll up a little. Aston, Omega, yeah, there we go. Sight to Snipe in 3, Commander level 3 power on a common grade candidate. That is unusual, to say the least. It also means, of course, that we can finally get at least a basic look at the intelligence officer powers. Sadly, we cannot test the space ones, because Cryptic thought of this. Even though you can put an intelligence officer into a universal station, they do not have access to their intelligence abilities. It simply shows a blank entry. So you're going to need a tier 6 intelligence cruiser, escort, ship, runabout, whatever, in order to get access to the new fun stuff. We shall see. However, we do at least have the basic descriptions, and hopefully we'll get a look at some of the basic ground versions later on. So, frictionless particle grenade is basically Q snow and ice in a grenade. Handy, handy, handy. Could be a good PvP one, that. Harmless is basically a... yes, a long-range pheromone override. I don't even want to think how that works. Do we grab a small vial of scent and throw it at them, stuffed up their nostrils? Incite chaos? That's... yeah, it's basically a confusion. They're energy rays, piggyback on energy rays, so they can spread. Okay, well let's go with that one, because I do have a team member on board, so we'll pop her in, give her Incite chaos. Sonic suppression field. What does this do? You are able to... basically it's stealthy and more ways of not being shot by the enemy, whilst at the same time a bit of bonus damage when flanking. Evade target, lock his space. Intelligence team ones, the basic version. Short duration cloak. We're getting a lot of cloaks in Delta Rising. I think pretty much every vessel in tier 6 is cloak capable, except possibly the Guardian cruiser. But, that's interesting. That sounds like it's very much the counter-intelligence ability, since it removes the exposed vulnerability debuffs. Interestingly, it does not grant an ambush bonus when it fades, can be activated either if you are cloaked, held, or disabled, and if being able to activate a cloaking ability while you are cloaked sounds completely nonsensical, bear in mind its other function to remove the exposed vulnerability debuff. Override subsystem safeties, temporarily go over subsystem power limits, and oh, by the way, you can break your ship. Terrific, and you cannot use it to get an offline subsystem back. So basically you still need to keep hold of it. Subspace Beacon 1, so basically you have a limited positional warp. Could be useful against Tholians if it's deployed correctly, but I note that the beacon is limited in how long it will last, so you can't just dump it down at the start of a fight and then use it to pop out of every single web orb. I suppose it might also come in handy in crystalline entity, and indeed anything that has a big attack of which you need to get out of the way. Viral impulse burst, what have we got? Navigation controls, so basically everyone gets jammed at full throttle and they can't turn. And they get a massive dump of engine power, so basically they end up running in all directions, which is basically the complete opposite of gravity well, really. Okay, interesting. Ironically, resistance to slows will reduce the duration of the debuff, as paradoxical as that might sound, since it does anything but slow the enemy down. I suspect it might be worth renaming the resistance to slows as just resistance to control effects. Might be in order. Let's have a glance at the Lieutenant powers. So, Particle Grenade 2, Harmless 2, Chaos 2, Neurolytic Hypo Injection. Injects a foe with a neurolytic compound. It will briefly incapacitate the target and amplifies if you flank the target. Photonic Decoy creates a duplicate of yourself by your target, and which will then say rude things about the target's mother and hopefully cause it to turn around. Sight to Sight Ensnare. Sight to Snite is... I have no idea what that is. It's something completely random. And they will basically be... It's the get over here ability, isn't it? It's just done with a transporter and a brief disorientation, and damaging will then break the target. Cannot be used on high-end NPCs, who are presumably sufficiently with it to not notice. Let's try Photonic Decoy Mark 1. Nobody said this had to be a sensible build after all. Sonic Suppression Field, etc, etc. EMP Pulse Probe. Launch a slow moving probe or track the location where they were at when the ability was activated. Wait, I assume that means where the target was at when the ability was activated, and while en route it temporarily emits high-powered EMP that will disable any enemy ships within a short radius. How short a radius, I wonder, and how fast a probe? Anyhow, Target Lock 2, Intelligence Team 2, Ionic Turbulence. Creating turbulence. Okay, so basically gives you the fluidic space effect, as far as I can tell. No, it doesn't. It is an acceleration debuff, and also more damage from all sources. 10 gets you 1, that's going to be seen on a lot of Vape build escorts, or maybe just a lot of escorts in general, since it's yet more damage. Okay, Kinetic Magnet? I have no idea. Resonate the target's enemy hull, so basically more kinetic damage. Oh boy, that could come in handy later on. There is a very interesting ability in the higher tiers that ties into torpedoes, but that could be interesting. The effect will end prematurely if an excessive amount of kinetic damage is dealt to the target. Yeah, I'll bet, and I know exactly what's going to be doing that excessive amount of kinetic damage. Beacon 2, Impulse Burst 2. Moving on to Lieutenant Commander. Where is it? Okay, Feign Disintegration. You set up a grand ruse to convince the foe of your untimely demise. Basically, you throw your arms in the air and scream. So the next attack that reduces you below 50% hit points will appear to disintegrate you. Yep, that's a spy with a dead ringer, isn't it? And you basically go invisible, get increased run speed, and then you get an ambush bonus later on. So basically, you get hit by that, go under 50%, tiptoe, stab. Hyper Ejection 2, Photonic Decoy 2, Sight to Snite, let's see mine, Tripwire Drone. Tripwire Drone will seek out the targeted foe while knocking down anyone within a short distance. I wonder if that's friend or foe sensitive. Let's try it. Replace Overwatch 1. Train, and okay. And what was the rest of it? Oh yes, and when it gets either to the foe or the end of its timer, it explodes. Fun. So EMP Pulse Probe 2, Subnucleonic Carrier Wave. Emit a subnucleonic pulse here. So basically it's subnucleonic beam, but it's less effective, presumably in terms of how long it's going to nerf your recharge time. And on the plus side, you can hit 5 targets with it. Okay, I wonder what the cooldown on that is. Will be interesting to find out. And the kinetic ability I was talking about earlier, Transport Warhead. Let's face it, gentlemen, how many times have you looked at him and thought, I really wish I could beam a photon torpedo onto his bridge? Well, now you can do it with any torpedo. So the next torpedo launched by your vessel will instead be transported instantly to the command decks of the enemy's ship, and then it explodes, bypassing shields and has a chance to knock a random substance offline. I wonder what kind of torpedoes that mixes with, because you would think it mixes with, well, just about anything. So bioneural warheads, tricobalt torpedoes. I wonder if it'll mix with the destabilized plasma torpedo, because technically that is a console, not a weapon. But unfortunately, the only way to test it would be to get into space, and for that we will require a tier 6. Actually, no, scrap that whole plan anyway, because the destabilized torpedo is unique to the Tavaro retrofit, and you can't put an intelligence officer onto the Tavaro. Curse you, Cryptic. Pity. Oh well. I'm thinking fun with tricobalts in any event. Feign Disintegration 2, Tripwire Drone 2, Surgical Strikes. Okay, what does this do? All beam and cannon weapons fire more accurately for the duration of the buff, benefit from increased accuracy and critical hit chance, but will fire more slowly. So... okay, so why would people go with this over beam overload or cannon rapid fire? I mean, who mixes beams and cannon, with the possible exception of something like a 360-degree beam array to keep beam target systems on a cannon-focused science ship like the Vesta? I suppose we're going to have a look at the numbers, but candidly, at first glance, I can't see that really replacing beam overload and a dual beam bank or cannon rapid fire and a few dual heavies. But we shall see. Meanwhile, Subnuke Carrier Wave 2, Transport Warhead 2. Right, I'm guessing this is principally a multiplier on the effective damage. Also interesting that we don't seem to have an immediate source for rank 3. On the other hand, the Delta Operations Pack did say it was going to include 3 very high-grade duty officers and 3 very high-grade bridge officers, so I dare say at least one of them is going to have that as a custom option. Right, so that's a quick glance at the new bridge officers. Sadly, it has to be said that we do not as yet have the new ships on the holodeck, so that is going to have to wait for a bit. For the second half of this episode, ladies and gentlemen, I need to warn you now, this is going to have a massive, massive spoiler warning. Should you not wish spoilers on the Delta Rising plotline and missions, now would be an excellent moment to switch off, and if you are about to, I'll see you next time. Right, so since you're still here, let's get on with it. Cryptic have opened up the first couple of Delta Quadrant missions. We have Escalation and Mindscape. We're going to deal with Escalation today. I'll tackle Mindscape in a future episode. So, hail! The activation of the gateway of the heart of the sun in Dyson Sphere. Okay, deep into the Delta Quadrant. They've posted their differences again. Travel to the Jure system, 18 skill points, and alright, this is a breadcrumb mission. Fine, let's get going. Escalation in progress, and we are off to Tau Dewa. Again. Energize. Okay, and since I'm feeling lazy, we'll just grab the Transwarp to Tau Dewa. Short and sweet. And here we are. So, use the gateway in the Tau Dewa block to enter the I.N.T.E.L.L.I.G.E.N.C.E Dyson Sphere. Why did I transwarp? It would be interesting to attempt to break that by going up to Sphere Allied Space and then heading down, but I imagine it's simply going to trigger based on how and where you enter the Sphere Allied Space, because you've got to go through that zone one way or the other. Oh, no, it is sensitive. There's a distinction here between enter Space Gate to the Dyson Sphere, which is the regular version, and travel to the I.N.T.E.L.L.I.G.E.N.C.E Dyson Sphere, so we're going to have to be careful about that one. I revised my opinion. Travelling to what the? Oh, right, okay, we're straight over to the second sphere in line. That saves a bit of mucking about. Put it on screen. Duvok, good to see you again, matey. The last time went so well, we got a ship assimilated by the Borg. Right, so, where are we? Okay, so this is basically a placeholder set. So, we need to beam to Delta Quadrant Command. This is very empty. I wonder what happens if you toddle over here. I mean, this does look like you're potentially able to take a flight through it, so let's just go. First rule of testing, always try to break stuff in new and interesting fashions. Also, we get to have a close look at this, and oh, that's a nice touch. They've modelled the cloud layers. And no, you can't fly through it. We have hit a brick wall. Wonder how far along we can get here. Can we go cloud skimming? Well, at least we can't crash. I suppose that's something. Okay, so it's basically a relatively empty zone, and we're just here to warp down, or rather beam down, to the Delta Quadrant Command. It's a little disorienting having the world at 90 degrees. I keep instinctively tilting my head trying to get the horizon back on the horizontal. However, let's just get on with it since there's nothing else we can do. So, Delta Quadrant Command. More Solinae options. And we need to report to Commander Burgess, so... Okay, this... I can't tell if this is new or not. Okay, so commodities vendor, does he have anything to sell us? Standard Starbase thing, I think those are cut price. Yes, they are, 75. I think that's half price for the various commodities. Now, where do we need to go from here? Can't help but think it would be nice to have had a slightly better prompt to, okay, you need to go and see Commander Burgess now, who has somehow got himself off Earth space docks, so good to see him getting out in the... Yeah, that's a long way down. Okay, where are we? Looks, that's a nice reuse of the Iconian Gateway map. Let's do a quick tour of the room first. So we have got shipyard functions here. Customization. Still looking at Voth ships by the look of it. More ship equipment, dilithium ship equipment. You know what? I wonder if we can get Mark 14 yet. Requisition ship weapons, requisition phasers, just for convenience's sake. Where does it end? Mark 11. Fine. So if they're planning to give us that, they haven't done it as yet. That's another player. We're not having a visit from the Temporal Integrity Commission just yet. And let's continue on round. More Voth Battlezone stuff. I imagine these are placeholder assets at the moment. We have got bank, exchange. Yeah, these are definitely placeholders. More exchange and mail over the other side. I can't help but think that instead of bank, mail, mail, it would be more useful to have bank, mail, bank, mail, bank, or even mail, bank, mail, just to even things out and stop people having to run between one and the other to use all three functions. However, that's just me. Let's carry on around here. So we've got a tailor there. Not a Cardassian, I note. They've got some sense. As well as dilithium ground equipment, as well as awaiting equipment. So we can pick up consumables here. Looks like, yeah, fairly standard pricing. And dilithium ground equipment, store kit modules for science. Again, this is standard stuff. It's interesting that it's capping out at Mark 9 even for dilithium. I was expecting at least Mark 11 there, but it's been a while since I needed to buy anything from a dilithium store for gear. Special items, okay, there's nothing wildly interesting there. It's basically the dilithium store. Odd that we're picking up the fighters from the ground guy though. And that pretty much brings us back to the room's entrance. So it looks like this is going to be our home away from home for a while. Commander Burgess, Commander Mina, Commander... Well, no, actually not Commander Galera. In fact, she's the Klingon intelligence liaison, isn't she? So, Commander, Sub-Commander. Let's start with Galera, see what she's got to say. I don't have anything specific for you at the moment. Who are you? The child of... Klingon father, Bajoran mother. And this has abruptly gone into third person, so I wonder if this is going to get a rewrite. Okay, so presumably she'll cut into later on. Commander Mena, I think we've met once or twice before. Who are you? Secretive Head of Republic Intelligence, etc. Former Tal-Shiar. Very little to know about her. Okay, and she clashed with Hakiv. Mena. Right, okay, so background there. A little surprised that that's all written in the third person, but I would have expected that. Now, Sub-Commander Sahen, who are you? And bingo, we're into, yeah. Okay, so she's basically the dirty tricks operation person. Wonder if we're going to see Franklin Drake popping up over here. And then, of course, there's Commander Burgess, who's the Starfleet intelligence officer running the show, and who I would have expected to see in Divisional Purple, given that intelligence are being a little more open in this expansion, but that's just me. Welcome to the Delta Quadrant. Escalation complete. Finish that. And who are you? Senior Officer Starfleet Intelligence. Again, we've gone into third person here. Samuel Chakotay's, and Chakotay's not back because he's leading Starfleet's effort to find the Iconians. Native of London. Happy was supposed to be more sheltered. And, well, yeah. Join Starfleet. More time as analyst than spy. Not a fan of Franklin Drake, and the feeling is mutual. Right. Much hype in the chain of command. Okay. So I wonder if that's going to get rewritten, because it's interesting that Cryptic have gone out of character on these three.